In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight, let me start tonight's show off with our Black History reflection, with it being Black History Month. And we're going to do a reflection on W.E.B. Du Bois. Tonight, we honor the legacy of W.E.B. Du Bois, one of the greatest intellectuals in American history. Du Bois believed that education, economic empowerment, and moral courage were the cornerstones of Black liberation. He challenged this nation to confront its contradictions and to recognize the brilliance, humanity, and potential of Black people. Du Bois taught us that our stories matter, our scholarship matters, and our spiritual grounding matters. And tonight's guest embodies all three, a man whose life reflects discipline, faith, entrepreneurship, and a commitment to lifting others as he climbs. Tonight, let me just jump now into the show as we get ready for tonight, which is season 4, episode 21. Tonight, we gather once again at the intersection of truth, history, and the Black experience, a place where our stories breathe, where our voices rise, and where our legacy continues to unfold. This is America in Black and White, and on this February evening, in the heart of Black History Month, we honor not just the giants whose names echo through time, but the living builders among us who carry that torch forward. Black history is not a museum exhibit. It is not a chapter we revisit once a year. It is a living, breathing continuum shaped by those who came before us and expanded by those who dare to lead today. And as we reflect on the brilliance of W.E.B. Du Bois, a man who challenged America to reconcile its ideals with its actions, we are reminded that the work of liberation is both intellectual and spiritual. Du Bois believed in the power of education, the necessity of economic empowerment, and the moral responsibility of leadership. He believed that our progress is collective and that when one rises, we all rise. Tonight's guest stands firmly on that lineage. From the streets of Oakland to the pulpits and business corridors of California, from the barbershop chair to the community front lines, Dr. Joseph Cannon has lived a life shaped by faith, discipline, and service. He is a husband, a father, a former athlete, an entrepreneur, a financial educator, a pastor, and a man who has built not just business, but safe havens, spaces where young men find direction, families find community, and God's presence is felt in every detail. His journey is a testament to what happens when purpose meets preparation, when calling meets courage, when a man decides that his life will be used to uplift others. So tonight we honor the legacy he carries, the legacy of his mother, Joan Cannon, his father, Larry Cannon, the moral courage of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and the excellence, discipline embodied by Bo Jackson. These are the pillars that shaped him. These are the voices that guided him, and in this is the story we are here to explore. Family, settle in, because tonight we're not just having a conversation, We're witnessing a life that reflects the very essence of Black history: resilience, faith, leadership, and the unshakable belief that we are called to build something greater than ourselves. Welcome to America in Black and White. Welcome to Season 4, Episode 21. And welcome, Dr. Joseph Cannon, to the show, please. Hello, Dr. Cannon.
Hello, sir. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing just excellent. How are you?
I'm doing great. Glad you having me on the show.
Yes, sir. So
sir.
Before we get into the show, is there anything you'd like to share or say to our audience before we start the show?
Well, like you had mentioned, just hearing everything that you mentioned about myself, I'm like, wow, he done all of that. But definitely, guys, you are in for some information. I would say just take in the info that's shared, but not only just take it in, but put forth the action behind it. You know, a lot of times we get the knowledge, but knowledge without power is useless. I mean, knowledge without action is no power. So whatever you retain, you know, put forth the action behind it.
Great. Well, so what I would like to do first is to give the audience an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you.
Okay.
Before you became Dr. Joseph Cannon and up to this date. Can you tell us, growing up in Oakland, what values did your parents instill in you that still guide your life today?
Well, from my mother's side, from both sides really, but my mother's side, mainly with the spiritual side, I told her I was a drug baby, you know, drug me to church. So keeping me in that word and always telling me to, you know, pray for wisdom and understanding, you know, that instead of praying for things you won't, always pray for wisdom and ask God for that. And then from my father's side, you know, just the hard work. My dad always went to work morning, 5 a.m, getting off, and just seeing him work and stay put and protecting the family, providing for the family and so forth. So also that discipline, the spirituality and that drive is what they both have given me.
Joseph Cannon, like the athlete, the dreamer, the competitor.
Say that again. You were breaking up.
What was young Joseph Cannon like? The athlete, the dreamer, the competitor.
Great question. Well, started playing football when I was 8, 9 years old for the Oakland Dynamites, and always been a Raider fan. So watching, as you just mentioned earlier with Bo Jackson, watching how he ran the ball, you know, I was inspired by that. Ended up becoming a running back and had dreams and aspirations of making it to the NFL, as far as to be able to take care of my family, my mom, and purchase her home and all that. That was my goal, right? To make it to the NFL and so forth, so on. So that was my dream. And went further on to play at Skyline High School with the late Coach Beam. I don't know those that know Coach Beam was the coach at Laney that was just murdered like 2 months ago or however, but was able to play with him, and he was able to instill so much discipline and teamwork and focus within me, where it carried not on the field but off the field as well, you know, teaching us how to get along with a group of people and how to stand out as a leader amongst that crowd. So and also with that dream as well, and playing the sports and everything, it kept me off the streets as well, you know, being a young man, being in Oakland, seeing some of your friends and family doing some of the things out there, making all the money and having all the fun, it seemed like, and so forth. But that discipline and what was instilled in me kept me focused to keep on striving, because I knew that greater is coming.
Football might not be your final destination.
You was low again on the start. What'd you say?
When did you first realize that football might not be your final destination?
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, when I went to Laney College, and I found that Laney, that the love was at its all-time high as far as for football, right? In high school, it was kind of like, do I really want to do this or not? But then when I got the Laney and play, the love for it came back, right? And 19 years old, graduated, went on to Menlo College, played over there. And when I was at Menlo, I had my son. I was 20 years old with my firstborn. And when I was at Menlo College, they really wasn't running the ball too much, and it kind of took the love away from it because I was a running back, right? But in the midst of it, I ended up taking a hard hit in one of the games that we played. And after I took that hit a week later, my body had these tingly feelings in it, and I had a massive headache and didn't know what was going on. And I knew that God been calling me out to preach since I was a young man. So I remember looking in the sky and was like, Lord, okay, I'll preach. I go ahead and quit football, right? And I also was thinking about my son. My son was born, and I think he was 1 year old at that time. And I was thinking about my son and my health and everything. So I said, you know what? It's time for me to hang this up and figure out something else.
So when you decided that you was going to hang up football, I mean, how did you get to the point of, delving through the things from ministry to this outstanding entrepreneur? How did you get to that point after high school football?
Well, I'll tell you, when I graduated from Menlo College, I got my bachelor's degree in business management. They were saying if you go to Menlo and you get your degree from there, that's a statement saying that you got your degree from a prestigious school like that. And so I got that, and I was looking for a job, and nobody was hiring. They said it was the economy freeze because it was 911 and all that stuff was going on. And so I ended up going to get a job at 7-Up. I was driving the little pickup trucks, right? And driving those trucks, going stock shelves and everything. And one day it just hit me. I believe I was there for about 5 months, making $14 an hour. And it just hit me. I said, you know what? Here it is. I got my bachelor's degree, and it's people here on this job that's making more money than me, and they don't even have a degree, right? So I decided at that moment, I quit. I went to the supervisor and said, I'm going to put in my 2-week notice, and I'm going to do something else. And I told myself I'd never work for no one ever again, and never did. After that, I went to Barber College, and the rest is history.
Transition from athlete to student shape your identity?
You was low again at the beginning.
Transition from athlete to student shape your identity?
How did it from athlete to student shape my identity?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, again, playing sports, you had to have the grades in order to play, or you can't play, right? And so, and again, the type of coaches we had, like Coach John Bean, he was very disciplinary, very honest about having our grades straight. And if you wanted to get a scholarship, you had to have your grades straight. And even before football too, though, I always played since I was a kid, but even when I was young in elementary and junior high and all that, I prided myself in getting good grades, because again, I'm the only boy. My mom and dad, they had 3 girls, right? I'm the third. And so I'm the only boy, and I always felt like the family name gonna have to carry on through myself because I'm the only boy. And then also I always wanted to make my parents proud without never being suspended from school and keeping the grades and everything as being a Black child in the city of Oakland. So it went hand in hand with my parents and with sports.
You and your wife fostered children for 12 years. What inspired that commitment?
Well, the call of ministry has been on me since I was a kid. I knew I was called to preach, ran from it for years. I remember going to my mom at about 14 years old, telling her, and she just kind of brushed it off. So I brushed it off. So I kind of started getting out there a little bit and messing around with the, drinking and smoking and messing around females and all that kind of stuff, trying to get the call away from me. But it kept on. And so anyhow, with that being said, as in the word, it tells us that when we do for the least of them, we do unto him, right? So I always been a person to help get other people to the next level and kind of build up the underdog, right? And so my wife, she's always been good with kids. And at one point we were looking at doing a daycare, which we ended up getting our license through the daycare facility. But in the midst of that, they said by having a daycare license, you also can have your foster care license. And so we ended up, it kind of went hand in hand. So at that same time, they came to us after we got our license and asked us if we would want to do the foster care, right? They had a boy, which we was looking to have because we had 2 girls. We had 1 boy and 2 girls, me and my wife, 3 kids. So we wanted another boy to balance it out. But then in the midst of it, when they told us about a child in the foster care, they had a girl with him, and they didn't want to separate the two. And so we ended up taking a boy and the girl and brought them in. So just having that that godly heart, the kindness, the show forth to bring somebody up and be there for other people. That's what kind of played the role with me and her taking them into our home, to see a different outcome come from them.
How did fatherhood and foster parenting deepen your understanding of purpose?
Fatherhood and what? And foster?
Fatherhood and foster parenting deepen your understanding of purpose.
Well, I once heard it say that 1% of everybody else's effort is better than 100% of your own. You can't do everything, right? But if you are one to help and another person helps, then it all collectively comes together and you actually see the change in the individual. Like the Bible says, a person that saves souls is wise, right? Because you see the difference that you make in that person's life by you planting a seed or watering a seed. And when God changed their life, you can see that. So the same thing as being foster parents and things, you hear of how foster kids, a lot of them end up in jail or end up passing away, right? But if you have a good home and treat them like your own, then it could be the opposite, right? And so by doing that, just was driven to really save lives and save redirect someone's life, kind of like what's done for myself and a lot of other people in the city of Oakland through coaching. Being from having mentorship and coaching, it helped reshape where we probably could have went that we didn't go because they kept us busy and focused and disciplined. So the same thing in the foster care as well,
So what role did Oakland itself play in shaping your worldview?
What role did Oakland play?
Yes.
Well, a lot of natural born hustlers is in Oakland. So I had that hustling mentality from a young age, as far as even with me in business, but just having that hustling mentality when I was young. I remember there was a Olympic Sales Club book that would come to your home and it had products and prizes in it, but you had to sell so many items in order to get those products. And so I would go door to door and making sales so I could get what I wanted to get, right? Again, you didn't want to be broke as a child coming up in the town either, because a lot of people was out there selling dope your age, right? As a kid, making some good money, right? But to get away from that, what did I do? I ended up used to sell candy, regular candy at school, right? and borrowing money and saving my money. Just having that hustling mentality just came from Oakland. And also the toughness, of course, you gotta discipline and gotta be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
Coming from a historical place like Oakland, though, I understand that you get to learn the fast part of the city, but with all that richness that comes with the city, with that rich history, how did that influence any of the things that you learned in your growing up process?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, standing on your two feet again. If you look back at the history of the Black Panthers that came from Oakland and standing on morals and fighting for the people, right? And so that type of mentality has been instilled in us. And then a lot of even the musicians, the rappers and things, that came from Oakland. A lot of the music may have had some explicit words, all the stuff, right? But you filter out that and you could feel that. And then you get that energy and you take out the good from it and you focus on it. And a lot of times, a lot of the people in the streets that was out there selling drugs, or people that was the OGs that we say, right? A lot of them would kind of look at you as that light and come to you and say, hey, man, keep doing what you're doing, stay focused and things like that. And that also helped as well to navigate, because you look at what was happening and you see people going in and out of jail. You see people getting killed your age and you say, hold on, that's not the route I want to go. Later on in life, it's going to be reversed, so.
Tell us this, though. So in all of that, because you apparently are one that actually stands out, because you are very successful at what you decided to do. When you were just mentioning the part about the policing and the hustling and all that good stuff, how did the policing, how did that shape your thinking, as to your process of growing up to be the man that you are today?
I'll tell you what, in growing up out there, I was harassed a lot by the police, right? And being a young man, I remember driving my father's car and got pulled over, and they told me they thought the car was stolen, but really it was just because I was young and black, right? And they just wanted to test and see. I remember walking to the stores and police pulling up, making us get on our bellies and emptying pockets and everything when I'm walking to the store just because we had on gloves. But I'm like, I play football. We had our football gloves on and everything, right? So I didn't had, numerous of encounters with the police. Never been to jail or however, but I had numerous of encounters. I had to run a few times because I'm around a certain crowd, don't know what they go plan on this type thing or whatever. So did have to run. I got cuffed up a few times and everything. So if your mind ain't right, that could be mentally disturbing for somebody, But I think me being grounded in the word of God and knowing that in the end it's going to all work out, that kept me to keep on going and keep focused. But at the same time, I knew that the police harassment and everything was real.
Did that make you more mentally tough as you grew into young manhood to being the entrepreneur that you are today?
I tell you what, it kind of helped you shape. It does shape you because you kind of learn how to deal with the police. Sometimes as we see, a lot of times things could escalate, but you kind of learn how to navigate and deal with them, right? And so that's what it has taught me as well, But you said something about with navigating with the business, or what? How did it work?
Yes, how did it shape your mentality, as you got to be the businessman that you are today? Did it strengthen your mentality? Did it sharpen you as in dealing, with crazy situations as they pop up? How did that shape that mentality that you have right now for business?
Well, I don't think the policing side of it shaped that part of it, but I do believe the discipline of leadership from football and being disciplined with the parents that I had. Having being chastised for making our mistakes or however, and just that discipline. I'm very disciplined, and being able to put a rule out there, and if this is what it say, this is what we got to stick with. So I think that more shaped me into being the businessman that I am. Seeing how household was ran, seeing how the coach ran the football team helped me to be able to run barbershops, helped me to be able to run a team of financial agents and so forth.
Your mother, Joan Cannon, influenced your sense of compassion, faith, and service?
Mm-hmm. You said how?
Yes.
Well, my mom is a woman of God. As I said, she drug us to church. I never seen my mom go without, but I'm always seeing my mom give, right? But she never wanted for anything. It always been there, as the word says, it's better to give than to receive. And I seen that through my mom. I seen my mom taking in people that wasn't family and doing for people that wasn't family. I seen my mom bringing in my cousins to live with us when we was growing up and taking care of things. I seen her taking care of her sisters and her brothers and all that kind of stuff. So that really played a part in shaping me into the compassion and heart that I have as well.
Did your father, Larry, teach you about discipline, manhood, and leadership?
Well, my dad was a different breed, but he taught me strength. He taught me do what you want to do and don't worry about what other people think. Always do what you want to do, not worry about what people say, this and that. And he didn't say it in that way, but but definitely. And the discipline side, as far as, my mom was really the disciplinary, but if my dad stepped in, it was serious. So a lot of times he didn't have to step in, but when he did and that voice come, he had a deep voice. So his voice would get you straight. Yeah. So a a lot of things from my dad, I learned just observation and things. He wasn't one to sit down with me and had that one-on-one talks like that. But when we rode in cars, in the car together, he'd give little nuggets, you know, to check in with me, like, how this going, or you do this, or you make sure you do it. And those are our rides and talks that stuck with me.
What stands out as the turning point in your life?
Again, something went on in the beginning. I think when you're looking down, it ain't catching you when you're reading.
Okay. When you look back, what moment stands out as the turning point in your life?
Woo! It's a couple of them. One of them, when I was in high school, I experienced the first hurt of losing a loved one. Right, I lost one of my cousins got shot and killed in Oakland. I believe it's like 17 years old. That right there really was like eye-opening of death, heartache and everything, right? And, you know, when I was in college, I went to an all-white school, basically, and not all, but predominantly more, right? And I remember talking to a young white girl there, and she was asking about, we were talking about death. And I was sharing that I lost about 24 people that I knew already that had passed away. And she was like, wow, I ain't lost nobody but people like my grandma age. But for me, it was like I done lost people 17, 20, and 15, all that kind of stuff coming from where we come from. So those kind of things helped me look at it like, well, it's a whole nother world out there, right? And when I went to barber college, one of the main turning points that stuck out to me is when I got my barber license. You know, I was always on the fence of this faith run with God. Like, is he calling me? Is he not? Am I this? Am I not? And so I had to go take a barber test, and my model faked on me the night before my test. And so I had to go around Oakland asking people can I cut their hair? And I went to prayer and prayed to God, and God delivered a homeless man to me. You know, a homeless man was on the corner and yelled at me and said, hey, you got some change? And I hit a U-turn, and I asked him if he had some hair on his head. He said, yeah, I do. And he took off his head, had a head full of hair. And so then I asked him, do we have an ID on him? And he said, yes. And he said he was an old veteran, right? And then he said, I have a Bible too. Now, I didn't ask him if he had a Bible, but he said he had a Bible. So that let me know this is who God placed there. I took the man, spent the night, he took him to the hotel, had him stay with me, everything. And I'm young, right? And so the next day I took my test, and I thought I failed, but I passed the test, got my barber license, right? And so from that point on, I went back to the barber college to explain to them, to the students, to let them know you want to make sure you get your model before your time comes, because this is what happened to me. And so while I was at that college, the barber instructor came to me and asked me to go cut hair in Fremont. Now, I had previously told him no twice. This was his third time asking me to go cut hair in Fremont. But because of that experience, it made my faith go up so high that I said, you know what? I'm going to step out on faith, and I'm going to go to Fremont. And I went cut hair in Fremont, right? The next year, I bought the shop where I went worked at.
Oh, wow.
So it elevated my faith.
Right. You know, with that solid foundation, I mean, it's more than being resilient, is what you're displaying. But that's also a favorable part of leadership that's more than inspiring. That I'm sure that, you know, the people of your community, you know, they have to look up to you and give you that credit, because a lot of times, a lot of us forget, you know, where we come from and what it is to pay it forward. But it seems like in your case, that is the one thing that you have only not forgotten, but it's what you do. And so from that point, you know, which leads me into wanting to transition over to your work in entrepreneurship and being the CEO of KJ's. Because I mean, you know, I guess what our audience is going to learn is that you have a chain of your stores. But take us back to 2002 and tell us what made you choose barbering as your next chapter.
Well, again, coming up in Oakland, you can't go to school with a messed up haircut, right? And so we used to have my uncle cut our hair, and it was what they call a bowl cut. And so I started cutting my own hair. I would go to the barber shops when somebody else getting cut and watch barbers cut, and I would remember the steps. And so when I get home, I would practice on my own head. I was 15 years old. And so then I start going to school. People ask who cut my hair, and I say I did. Now they want me to cut their hair. So now I'm cutting hair at 15, 16-year-old, making $5 and stuff, $10, cutting my uncle's hair, all that kind of stuff, right? And so after everything wasn't working with getting a job, and of course the NFL dreams was done, my mom kept on telling me you should go to barber college. She used to tell me that before, and I was like, I ain't about to be no barber. I don't want to stand behind no chair all day and just be standing. I need to move. And so anyway, but after it all hit the fan, that's when I went to barber college. And then that's when I ended up getting my license and getting over there to Fremont, you know. So I started at 15 because of that. But when I went over to Fremont, that was my first barber shop that I was actually working at. And I was working under a barber that had just bought the shop. Now, I was thinking, so my mind was I was going to go work at Supercuts. The reason I was going to go work at Supercuts is because I just won a first place hair competition with Supercuts. And I was thinking more so going over there, being a manager, having benefits and travel and all that, because barbers don't have no time off, right? But in the midst of me thinking of all that, when I got to the city of Fremont, there was a guy that was with me when I took the homeless man, and he came to the shop and he told me one day, this gonna be your shop. And I kept saying, no, this ain't gonna be my shop, you know, and he kept insisting, right? The name of the shop when I got there was called Master Clippers. And it was a guy by the name of Ken that just bought it from a guy named Kameh. So Ken bought the shop. Ken changed the name of the shop 6 months later to KJ's Barber and Hair Creations, which stand for Ken and Jamie, right? Him and his wife. But at that moment, I knew God was building this shop for me and one of my business partners, because I'm Joe. I had a business partner that I started off with named Kevin, right? But we say KJ stand for Keeping Jesus. And so at that moment, I called him and said, hey, we ain't even got to look for a shop anymore. God is building this shop for us. KJ is Keeping Jesus. And 6 months later, the guy's wife job relocated them, and they had to move to Seattle, and he had to sell the shop. And we was in a position to buy the shop.
You just jumped into my next question, but I'll ask it anyway because I think there's a little bit more to it. Is KJ stands for Keeping Jesus. Why was it important to build a spiritually grounded business?
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all this righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you, putting God first in everything that we do. And so that was important. Wanted to change the trajectory of how barber shops was looked at, you know, and have a niche, right, that's set apart from other shops. So that niche is the fact that when we open up the shop, you would have morning prayer. Each KJs have a Bible in there somewhere, right? Normally at the front when you come in, you should have a Bible there, and no profanity, right? No sagging. We don't just play anything on TV or on the radio, right? We wanted to make it comfortable for everyone, you know. So being that having the faith-driven foundation of it, right, lets people know that this is nothing but the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our sight.
1 year later, you purchased a shop. What gave you the courage to take that leap?
To purchase the shop?
Yes.
Oh, that's a great question. Again, told myself I was never going to work for no one again. I got my bachelor's degree in business management. And so I'm looking at the stations, looking at booth rent. So for instance, if I'm paying $150 a week booth rent, right, that's about $600 a month. It's 5-6 chairs in there. And so, but it's only me and the guy in there that's working, the owner. And so, as I'm looking at that, and he's telling me you got to sell and the lease is this much or however, I'm just calculating the chairs on the possibility of what I could do if I rent out these chairs. Now, mind you, I'd already had a business plan before I was even at that shop. We had created a business plan that we would go do a shop called Unique Cuts, a barber for seniors and disability, people with disabilities, right? And so I had this business plan, and I put barbers in there that I knew would probably come work for me that I met in barber college. And so when he mentioned the shop thing, I was like, this can work. I was already saving my money. right? I was still at my mom and parents' house, right? So I'm saving my money. And he gave me a price, and it was exactly what I had saved up. And so I knew God was building this for me, and I just took a leap of faith to get out there and see what it does. And then again, knowing those chairs and the possibilities of what can come in. If I'm already paying $600 a month, and the lease is about $1,800 a month, then I only need about 2 or 3 chairs filled, and I got that taken care of. And so that I looked at all those numbers and said, you know what, we go just step out on faith and make it happen.
Create the culture of professionalism and positivity that KJ's is known for.
How? Well, when we hiring the people, having a contract, or some type of agreement, that they would see and that they would abide by when we have an interview and let them know how the shop is to be ran. Then we would have monthly meetings. We would have a staff meeting every month to see what needs to be changed and what's not going right. Are we running, or is everybody up to par with doing the presentation? Doing the running the shop as we had agreed upon. So that's pretty much it. Just having it laid out, as the Bible say, have a vision, make it plain, write it down. So we wrote down the game plan. We wrote down our rules and stuck with it.
What are the challenges expanding from one shop to multiple locations?
That you can't be at all places at the same time. Duplicating process. So I was blessed to have some great partners. At the shop in Fremont, I had a guy, of course, my guy Kevin was there, but then I also had another guy by the name of Gerard who ended up saying he wanted to be in partnership. Well, I had another guy that one of my guys I played football with in college that wanted to be in partnership. So I'm knowing these guys. So I felt like I didn't want to do a shop, of course, by myself, because if you're doing it by yourself, you got to be there. But if you have a partner, it can help you expand. And so I was able to expand over in the city of Fremont and with a whole nother partner while having the other shop still running. So I didn't have to be at 2 places at the same time, but we just had to run it in sync with how we run the shops. Same thing after we branch out to another shop, another partner comes along. So we was able to keep on repeating the process over and over again.
So how did you choose your business partners as the chain grew?
Well, my first business partner, me and him been together since 1st grade. And so my last name is Cannon, and his last name is Rozier, right? And so we had created another business that we used to do. We used to do poetry and motivational speaking, books, right? I wrote a book. I have one here called Don't Give Up on Your Dreams, right? Inspire yourself by gaining wisdom. So that was part of Can Rose, which means you had an ability to rise. And so that business in itself ended up branching out to be a corporation, which ended up owning the barbershops.
To maintain consistency across shops in different cities.
Say it one more time, the first beginning part.
What does it take to maintain consistency across shops in different cities?
There, you just said it. Consistency is key, right? I got that on my wrist right here. Consistency is key, being consistent. But it take you to how I was able to do it, open up a shop in a different city, but still keeping my foot in one city. So for instance, when opening up the shop in Hayward from Fremont, it wasn't that difficult because a lot of my clients that would come to me in Fremont was already coming from the Bay. So Hayward was actually closer for them, right? But then when I opened up a shop in Tracy, that was the difference, right? So when I moved to Tracy and bought a house in Tracy, I ended up working at a shop in Tracy first, paying booth rent. And so a lot of people was like, why are you working at a shop paying booth rent when you own 2 shops? But I was at that shop on Tuesdays Wednesdays and Thursdays, but then I would go to my shop in Fremont a couple of days out the week. In Hayward a couple of days out the week. So that way I could still cut my clients in the Bay. And then on the days I'm in Tracy, of course, I'm building a clientele base in Tracy. I didn't really have a goal at first to open up a shop in Tracy until it kind of just started happening, right? Clientele grew enough and I feel like, okay, it's time for us trying to get a shop out here now. And so now opening up in Tracy, as far as having our own shop, now I was able to transition and be more at my shop in Tracy and then go to my shop in Hayward one day a week instead of 2-3 times a week. You know, you had a shop. So that way on that day, all your clients could come on your, what is usually a slow day. I was able to turn into a busy day, if that makes sense. So yeah, normally at a barbershop, Tuesdays and Wednesdays is the slowest day of the week, pretty much, right? But if I'm at my shop in Tracy the other days, and then I go to the Bay on a Wednesday, that just made my Wednesday busy. So now I'm busy throughout the week.
With establishing not just your business plan, but your strategies as to growing your business out to expansion, how important was it to have the commitment, you know, for those that wanted to partner and be a part of the growth and expansion that you grew into?
It's very important to have a commitment, you know. And so, as you said before, choosing your partners. A lot of people don't know that when you in the shop, we watching. Well, I was watching to see how they carry themselves. So if you're a barber in the shop and you cleaning up without being told, and you wiping windows down without being told, you bringing things to the table without being told, that's a quality that you probably look for in a partner. So I seen that, and when one would ask me, hey, how can I get into a business with you? How can I do this, right? Well, I would already know from that person's commitment. That's how I was able to choose a lot of barbers to come work at KJ's from barber college. I watched how people came to school, how they treated customers in barber college. I was already having my eye on a few people. That way, when I went open my shop, I used to tell them in barber college, you go work for me one day. You go work at the shop one day, because I already was keying in on a few people. And those same people that I keyed in on, they ended up becoming a barber at the barbershops, but then they also ended up becoming one of my business partners at one of the barbershops. You know, so very important to have a commitment, but that commitment came from observation and watching and seeing how committed they were as a barber before they became my partner.
So are you guys, for all of the business establishments that you have been able to create, are you guys partners, you know, with all of those, or just particular businesses?
Some of the partners are partners with me in the financial business as well, and some of them not. At one point, we had 8 barbershops, 8 locations over in the city of Fremont, Tracy, Brentwood, Newark, Oakland, Stockton, all over, right? But COVID happened, and we wasn't considered essential, so we had to close all the shops at the same time. So today, we have 4 shops still remaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But COVID came, that was tough.
So how do you balance entrepreneurship with ministry and family life?
Working the calendar. so like today, Monday is kind of like gym and get back, do some business on the financial side, but at the same time, get into your Bible for Bible study questions so that I can have it ready for Wednesday for Bible study, right? Once Friday, Saturday come, I'm tuned in on getting that word together for Sunday morning. I only cut hair one day a week now, so I go to the shop on Thursdays at 5:30 in the morning till about 12:30, and then I'm done. Other than that, I'm doing financial education.
So what makes KJ's more than just a barbershop?
The things that we do, give back, you know, we give back to the community. We have what is called a day at the park, where we would, you know, every year we would give back food and give out clothes, and Thanksgiving, sometimes so many hours of free haircuts. We even go on the roads and do different events where we do free haircuts and and what else we have? We do scholarships, you know, kids that come to the shop, their parents can apply for a scholarship through the barbershop, right? And we able to help kids with their prom tickets or dinner for their proms. We used to do Bible study at the barbershops before I became a pastor.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So, yep.
So, well, what changed and what made you stop doing that?
The Bible study? Well, I was preaching for about 4 years, and then I started doing prison ministry. I used to go to the prisons and preach, but then I ended up going back to school. And so it was just a lot, right? When I got back in school, I was going every Monday for 4 hours or 3-4 hours at night studying. I ended up getting my master's degree and my doctorate degree in theology. So I did another 4 years after college. I went back, did another 4 while running the barbershops, while having to foster kids, all kind of stuff, just busy. So that kind of had us break away from the Bible study at the barbershop so much.
Do you give young barbers who want to become owners?
What? Said it again?
What advice do you give young barbers who want to become owners?
Well, I tell them it's a great field. It's a great field to get into. But if you can make a whole lot of money in it. I'm actually writing a book right now called The Barber Game. And it's giving a game on what it takes to be a good barber, right? Because it's not always about so much you being the best haircutting barber, but it's about, like you said earlier, consistency. It's about being there. It's about that first impression when people see, right? So this book is centered around what it takes to be a good barber and what it will take to be a barbershop owner. Because some people just want to be a barber, but some want to be a barbershop owner. So within the book too, I give that type of advice on what it takes to be a barbershop owner as well. So back to the question, if you coming to me that want to be a barber, I would say, yeah, it's a great field to get into. Take it seriously. Treat it as a 9-to-5 job. Show up when the time say on that door, because a lot of barbers they come in when they want to and leave when they want. But if you treat it like a 9-to-5 and you treat it having your guaranteed hours of when you go be there, then that's how your clientele will grow, because people know you there when you're supposed to be there.
So let's transition over to your work in financial education and economic empowerment. You're also a real estate broker. What drew you into real estate?
Great question. Again, when I was at when I was at the barbershop in the city of Fremont early on, it was hit on me as far as giving scholarships to kids, right? And that came from coming out of Bethel Missionary Baptist Church under the late Herbert Geist. They used to give us scholarships from the church. And so how can we give scholarships from the barbering industry, right? And so we started a company called Karen Rose Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And that's where the scholarship aspect came in on that. And so I felt with the real estate, the type of money that people make in real estate, when I close a house, I could take some of that money and donate it to my own nonprofit, give it out as a scholarship, and write it off on taxes for me.
Look at you reading them regulations. That's what's up right there. That's the way you do it.
Yeah, write it off. You getting the big checks from real estate, go put money in the church, put money in the Karen Rose Foundation. Those are 2 nonprofits. Then I can write it off.
So how do you teach financial literacy to people who've never had access to it?
Great question. The same way it was taught to me, I hadn't had access to it. There's a video I always like to bring up with these fleas in it. If you look it up on YouTube, it's some fleas in a jar. And if you put the lid on this jar, the fleas won't jump out the jar. We just keep hitting that lid, right? But if you let that lid stay on there for 3 days and you remove the lid, those fleas will not jump no higher than the level that was set by that lid, right? And so even they offsprings, when offsprings come about, they won't jump no higher than the level that was set by the lid. So I tell people the same in life. We only have so much financial education from our parents and our grandparents based on what they was taught, right? And so we're taught it, but if we don't get the knowledge from these books right here, like The Wealthy Physician, Becoming Your Own Banker, money, wealth, life insurance, right? So getting that knowledge in us helps us be able to jump out the jar. So what we do is we either do in person or on Zoom, right? I get on Zoom with someone, share my screen, and I will teach them and show them in 30 minutes the advantages and disadvantages of the different accounts that we place our money in, and show you what accounts you're able to make money in and never lose money, or what accounts you're able to grow your money tax-free and not have to pay taxes, or what accounts you're able to grow your money in that keeps up with inflation compared to not keeping up with inflation. So I'll go over those rules in about 30, 40 minutes and just show them right on Zoom.
I mean, it's really interesting to know how your focus has evolved, and it's evolved and it's evolved.
Yeah.
When you got to the financial part, what drew you into the financial literacy that you wanted to give back to the community to help folk along?
That's a great question as well. When I read this book right here, Money, Wealth, Life Insurance, right? And it talked about how banks put money in life insurance assets, and talked about how during the Great Depression, 6,000 banks closed their doors, but not one life insurance company went out of business. 2008, 400 banks went out of business, but not life insurance, right? So that was an eye opener. And then to understand that Walt Disney that we see today is only here because that guy was able to take a loan from his cash value life insurance policy to fund what we see today. McDonald's did the same thing. J.C. Penney's, Nike, right? Putting all this money into these faucets of life insurance, you know?
So you learned a lot about the instrument itself, or did you just learn just the functionalities of insurance? Because some would think that they work hand in hand, but there are a lot of people that can't afford certain instruments that really work multifaceted. So which did you learn first, or did you learn both? Or how did that come to be?
Great question. I learned both. I learned both. And so to answer that too, let me go back to the other thing. The other thing that had me get so driven on this is I seen that on CNN, it showed that the net worth of a black family in America is only $24,000. And when I ask us, and I'm talking to us, and I say, how much is your net worth? A lot of us don't even know what net worth is. And then when I say, if you sold everything you own, how much would it be worth? A lot of us just laugh because they don't own anything. And so it was so sad that I said, man, we got to make a change. And that's what really drove me to really be pushing this as well. And so, as you said too, with both faucets of the life insurance, to help people not have a black eye against life insurance, because a lot of times people think life insurance and it's eerie, they think death, right? But it's living insurance because of the things that you can do with these accounts, even while you're living, right? And the type of benefits that come with these accounts that you can utilize while you're living, but you won't know about it if you keep getting in your own way. You got to be optimistic and get into the information and hear it. And then make a decision. Don't make a decision based on what you heard from everybody else, right? You hear it, you try it, and see what it do for you.
Misconceptions you see in our communities.
What's the misconceptions?
What are the biggest financial misconceptions you see in our communities?
The biggest financial misconceptions. What can I say? The biggest financial misconceptions in our community. I think a lot of times we look at people from the outside and look at what they have, not knowing that they really broke, right? You look at the expensive bags, or you look at this and not really knowing that they really don't have the money, right? They really are in financial stress.
Ruins.
Yeah. So the way we look at it compared to looking at, like, for instance, today I have an EV Hummer, or 2024, right? But I drove a Honda Civic for about 4-5 years. And people would be like, man, why you won't get yourself a car? And that's the thing with our community. It's like you got to stun a little bit or show off a little bit just to get their attention. That's crazy. But then at the same time, when I did get that EV Hummer, I understood too why getting that type of car and things like that. So you could write it off. Taxes, the weight of the car, use it as business, right? But yeah, but I think that's the biggest misconception for our community as far as looking at the shiny things and things like that and thinking that's the person that have it going on.
Let me ask you, overall, when we talk about financial literacy, is it one of your goals, or is it just your goal, period, that from the overall financial spectrum, is it your goal to teach this to people within your community or our communities in general?
Yes, it's my goal to teach to everyone. But of course, when I have us on a call, I really want us to grab it because we keep getting left behind. So definitely. But someone got to, again, get out their own way. It's a trip that a lot of people is so busy. They can't take 30 minutes to hear the information. All right. And so even today, Charles, I'm licensed in 28 states doing what we do. You know, and that's the benefit of this Zoom, the benefit of the business that we able to do this in 50 states, including Puerto Rico and Canada, and grow a whole agency. Right now, I have an agency of about 65 agents that's on my team, you know?
You know what? I'm way past proud of you. I mean, because I think what you're doing is you're more than just being the example. You're trying to help those to get to that point, but you're showing by doing. That's
Yes.
what I think a lot of people need to see. Because
Yeah.
if they don't see it, then they can't do it, or they probably will not do it because they don't believe it's attainable. And so
Yeah.
I think that's where you separate yourself from a lot,
Mhm.
in the bushel. So, being that cream that's rising to the top, how can you actually form something or think about forming something that's actually going to be a little bit more expansive to help folk from a community perspective as to not just learn about financial literacy, but how to get themselves together?
Great question. Well, with me, again, I'm at the church every Sunday, right? Pushing to save their souls and getting them towards God, of course, right? With the financial side, me and my team, we do something like we're working on some things now where we have a little tour. So this weekend coming, we'll be having something at the church where we do free haircuts, free food, free clothes, but then we go get a financial education. Next month, we're going to be at the boathouse at the Lake Mary. So we're doing things to have an event per se to invite numerous of people out with flyers and get them in front of that information. I'm also a part of a group called CAG, which is King's Accountability Group, right? So we have something called Prince to Kings. That's mentorship of young man, teaching them how to cross over to adulthood. And so we have that going on as well. And it'd be at Salesians over in the city of Richmond. So, yeah,
We're gonna get a little bit more into that in just a few, because I think that's also one of the great things that you do. How important is ownership, whether property or business, in building generational wealth?
That's very important. That's one thing, like you said, my father, that's one thing he did always say. He said, you own your own stuff, right? Don't rent nothing. He didn't say it like that, but he said, so I always had that mentality, like I gotta be an owner, I gotta own it. So yeah, definitely with the properties and living trusts and things like that, you want to have that, because I look at it now that cost of living just keep on rising and it ain't gonna stop. It keep on getting higher and everything, right? And then the jobs, regular jobs and things ain't keeping up with that to be able to afford a home. So what your kids go do? What your grandkids go do, right? And so my goal is to be like, I need to go as hard as I can to set it up that what's here will last generation to generation to generation, right? So I mean that's right there is what I'll be looking at. I'll be like, because your grandkids and your great grandkids ain't gonna be able to afford nothing. So yeah, definitely ownership of property that you could pass down is a great way to have the wealth. And then also these life insurance policies. You know, like, do you know that slave owners had policies against us? So when we were passing away, they get more wealthy, more money, right? But we insure our jewelry, we insure our cars, we insure our houses, and it ain't guaranteed you go get into a car accident. It's not guaranteed you go lose your jewelry or your house burned down. But what is guaranteed is that you go die. You may get sick too, right? So you want to make sure you have something. What if you had $1 million policy? I have a sister. I have 3 sisters, right? One of my sisters, 46 years old, got her a policy. And the next year she ended up getting breast cancer and passed away. And she was able to leave her family $250,000 at 47 years old, right? What if that was $1 million policy? What if it was a $2 million? What would her kids be in position in right now, or her husband, right? Then I have an auntie who lost 2 kids to the city of Oakland out there in the streets, right? Didn't have nothing on them. But then you got the GoFundMe's, right? So again, it's guaranteed we go die. But unfortunately, a lot of us feel like I ain't leaving them nothing. I had to work for it. They gonna have to work for it. And that's just the wrong thinking.
Principles do you believe every young person should learn early?
Of course, principles, faith in God, credit, right? How to maintain the credit, and then also residual income, you know, how to make money when you sleep. Warren Buffett said, if you don't find a way to make money while you're asleep, you'll be working until the day you die.
Kind of rich, but that's also kind of true as well.
Yeah.
Let's transition over to community engagement and service. KJ's is known for scholarships, toy drives, and feeding the homeless. Why is giving back non-negotiable for you?
Hey, man of God, faith, you know, as the word says, it's better to give than to receive. You know, there was a story about a monkey, right? The monkey put his hand in the jar. That's how you trap the monkey, right? Monkey see, monkey do, right? You put the peanuts or whatever in the jar. You reach in, try to get the jar, money, the nuts out, but he can't take his hand out because his hand is bald. If he would have just let go, he could move, right? And so you got to be able to open your hands to give so that you can receive. And so, like I said, with my mom, I seen her always giving and never seen her go without. And I took on that same trait. You know, I'm always giving, I'm always helping. And God always continued to pour back in. So your part of giving is basically your seed that you've been planting. And then later on, the harvest is going to come. So it's very important to me as far as being that giver.
Community need do you feel most called to address right now?
The community need.
What community need do you feel most called to address right now? You feel that's called to address right now?
The financial, the financial side of things, because it's that simple. A lot of times you could put a plan together for $50 a month and start growing your money with compound interest. You're right. So it's flexibility, but you could say you do a $50 a month policy, and this money is growing in this account with compound interest. The money is growing with the growth of the market, but it's not going down with the market. But at the same time, you got a $500,000 policy, right? That you could leave your family if something was to happen to you. And then if you were to have like a heart attack, stroke, cancer, major organ transplant, anything like that, you could actually utilize some of these accounts because they come with living benefits. So now you could take 90% of that $500,000 policy, which is $450,000, and use that for medical bills or use it for what you need to use it for if any of those things that happen. So I think that's very important to stress because right now it's about less than 30% of people don't have enough money, don't even have $400 if an emergency happened in their home today. You know, something happened. There's so many people living paycheck to paycheck. One emergency will make them bankrupt or stressed, you know?
So do barbershops serve as cultural hubs in Black communities?
Mm-hmm. You said, are they served as?
No, I said, how do barbershops
Uh-huh.
serve as cultural hubs in Black communities.
But back in the day, they used to say the barbershop was like the church, right? You go to definitely a lot of news and updates and all that stuff happens in the barbershop. And it's a lot of counseling going on in that barbershop because you have clients come in your chair and you basically a counselor. They giving you all their problems. They venting about what they going through at home. They venting about their jobs and all that kind of stuff. So you basically counseling at that moment. And then whatever is happening political or in the world is kind of getting talked about in the barbershop, and you getting a debate going on in the shop. So you're getting a lot of knowledge between those barbers as the floor is open as that open forum, and then clients participating in. So definitely culturally a spot that you could come in and vent out and get that counseling that you might not get, because a lot of us may have needed counseling and never went to counseling, but the barbershop you can let out.
So, what stories from the community have stayed with you over the years?
What stories?
Yes, from the community have stayed with you over the years.
Well, in Oakland, when I told you I wrote that with the homeless man, they ended up doing an article on me called "The Power of God" to kind of let it be known that the faith in God has changed the trajectory of my direction of where I was going. And then being with the barbershops, I mean, you have shops being rated best in the cities, different articles going out, been recognized with the Capitol at the state of Sacramento Capitol, or however, city of Sacramento State Capitol building, being recognized as honoree for the type of business. Things like that. And then just the community outbring when we do have our functions in the community, really pouring back in and just saying what they got from the shops, how it inspired them, how it motivated them. Those that went to school off of our scholarships coming back and saying, thank you. That scholarship really helped me. All that kind of stuff, Those things stick with us.
For young men who walk into your shop searching for direction.
It did it again. I think when you about to start, come up and then out here.
You mentor young men who walk into your shop searching for direction.
That is, man. Listen, for years, again, barbering is that counseling spot, but for every time we get someone in the chair, young man or however, the directions of where they're going because they're sharing things with you, and you just kind of tell them you've been there and done that type thing, and kind of veering their direction to another way. I have a young man that used to come into the barbershop. He told me he was an alcoholic, right? He had accidents. He woke up in jail not knowing how he got there. And I would just mentor him a little bit as I'm sharing with him, talking to him about God and everything. But one day, his mom came into the shop, and his mom told me that her son had read my book, Don't Give Up on Your Dreams, Inspire Yourself by Gaining Wisdom. And that's her only son. She do not want to lose her son. And can I really mentor him? Because he speak highly of me. He admired me and this and that. So I took him under my wings and really start pouring into him, not letting him know that his mom did come out to see me. And from that today, he's one of the members at my church. He's been baptized. He don't drink no more. He got a daughter of his own and everything. And he's got a job and doing real, real well. So that came from right at that barbershop mentoring.
True community leadership look like to you?
True community leadership?
Yes, sir.
Well, look like someone like myself. Someone that's committed, someone that don't just talk about it and do it. Like I said, we about to do free. I live out in the valley now, right? But the church is in Oakland. So this weekend, we're going to be doing free haircuts, free food, free financial knowledge right at the church. So that's what it looks like, giving back. days at the park, as I mentioned, scholarships, giving back to the less fortunate, because the Bible says, "To much is given, much is required," and it's our duty to give back, not just talk about it, but be about it, and go out there and put forth the action behind what we're saying.
Your pastoral calling and theology. You preached your initial sermon at 27.
Yes.
What did that moment mean to you?
That I would finally answer the call. It was nervous, it was scary, but it was like, wow. And it was kind of like, wow, Lord, you calling me? like me, type thing. But it was surreal. I actually had dreamed the moment before it happened, so it was just kind of like a confirmation for me when I was preaching that first sermon in front of all those people. But just to see God step in, knowing that all this time I've been running, I just couldn't run no more.
Theological studies deepen your understanding of ministry. How did your theological studies deepen your understanding of ministry?
Mm-hmm. Well, just in school with the different, because in school it was a mixture of different denominations, of course, right? Okay. And my church is non-denomination. I just don't put no Baptist behind it or anything like that, right? It's just like the barbershop, keeping Jesus. That's what the church ministry is about, keeping Jesus. And if the Bible say it. But with the theology school, it kind of was somewhat just teaching of the kingdom of cults and things like different religions and what some of the other religions' beliefs are. And then also, even in the midst of it, the different ministries in Christianity, how certain churches operate, so we was getting some of that within the theology as well, and definitive dissertations, it had you look deep into the word when you had to do a dissertation or a thesis. So it definitely deepened the understanding on some of the stories in the Bible and some of the things that took place, for sure.
Saving one soul at a time, mean in practice.
Well, again, the Bible says one plant, one water, God adds an increase. So you may plant a seed, the seed, you may give a word, somebody else come around and water the word, but it's God that adds an increase. So even in the Bible, it is said how the angels are rejoicing over one sinner that repents, right? And so saving one soul at a time is what it's about. Maybe even if nobody show up, but one person show up, you ought to preach like the house is full. Because that's so matters.
With that being said, how do you minister to people who feel disconnected from the church?
Bring the church to them. A lot of, like Paul said, I became a Jew to gain a Jew. I became as those without the law to gain those without the law, right? Sometimes you have to, like I come from the streets of Oakland. I've been around hustlers and pimps and all kind of things, right? So sometimes, you be amongst those, same as Jesus was amongst those. But while you are amongst those, you continue to just let your light shine amongst them. Certain things that they may do, you don't do because of your faith, right? One time I went to a bachelor's party that they had at a club, right? This was early on when I started preaching. And everybody there that was with us was doing what they do, maybe drinking and smoking and everything, right? And so we left out of there after a while, but one person came to me and was like, "Hey, I just want to tell you, man, you're a very strong person. I was watching you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I seen you up in there. You didn't do no this." They were watching me, right? And so that's more of the ministry. The best sermon preached is one lived. So being amongst the crowd, being amongst them, and just letting your light shine, eventually you win some of them over.
What is the greatest lesson pastoring has taught you?
That is not for the faint. When I became a pastor, it gave me a whole nother respect for pastors. Just on the fact that you got to prepare every week for a message. You're dealing with phone calls. You're dealing with prayer. You're dealing with this. The spotlight is on you. You do something, they want to crucify you, type of thing, right? So it comes with a lot of different responsibilities. But then at the same token, that's why when certain pastors may fall or do something or whatever, I just look at it and say, you don't know how many times that person then passed, because you get challenged a whole lot, And so definitely gave a whole nother respect for pastoring.
When we talked, I mentioned that we do Black History 365. And I asked you, who was the most influential people in your life and career? You said your mother, your father, Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Bo Jackson. When you think about Black history, why is your mother, Joan Cannon, one of the most influential figures in your life?
Well, my mom moved out here when I was 15 years old from Louisiana, Opelousas, and just seeing she never backed down on nothing, and being there for her family, brothers, sisters, despite what other people may have said or thought. Like, why you do that? Why I wouldn't be doing that. She continues to do it, right? And again, I never seen her go without, and I seen the changes that has been made from other people that have her in their life, and I seen the discipline that she inputted on so many of my cousins and this and that to veer the way that their life went compared to the ones that didn't have that,
Example of strength, faith, and compassion shape your understanding of Black excellence.
Being a Black woman, of course, and coming from the South, during those times with, of course, it was even when we used to go back and visit down there. Sometimes they say, don't do this, don't do that, So coming from where she came from, and then they also moved to France because my grandfather was in the military, so they lived in France for about 2 years, and then to come out here, and she was the first one in the family to graduate from college. She got her degree and became an RN nurse, at the Veterans Hospital. And I believe I'm the first one to graduate since my mama graduated, and it was 8 of them, So that's an example of Black excellence. The strive, the consistency, despite what's happening around you, just being laser focused, knowing what you have to do.
Your father, Larry Cannon, played a major role in your development. What did he teach you about manhood and responsibility?
Hey, do it. Again, whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. Don't worry about what nobody else say. Do that. When we was coming up, he used to take us to do yards, right? Taught us humility as far as and work ethic. At a young age, rototill in the backyard and doing lawnmowers, doing weed eater and trimming hedges and all that stuff. And not only at my house, but our neighbor house. Not only there, but our grandmother house, right? And eventually, Doc, I ended up making money doing yards at a young age. When I started driving, I was 16-year-old, loading up the van with a lawnmower and a weed eater, going around to my partner's house, cutting yards for $50. So all of that, cleaning gutters on the roof, So he taught me the hard work, the grit, the mud, get out there and get it. He used to do changing oil on cars, and I looked at him work out, and that made me say, look, I'm not about to be doing all that. I'm gonna pay people to do that. So even today, I pay people to do my yard. I pay to get my car worked on, whatever. I ain't doing none of that, but I know how, right? But because time is money. The time it take me to do my yard, I probably could have made $10,000.
Not trying to be funny, but that is the exact same thing I said to my dad, because he used to tell me, come out there and work on some cars. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But understand. You know that's actually good practice, I think, because it's not that you don't know the foundation, but you
Yeah.
want to make it. You want to try to make it as easier and as much better for yourself as possible.
Yes, yes. I couldn't, and me, I couldn't go all year 65 and retire. And no, I need to retire now. I need to be having a comfortable life now. I like to get what I like to get. I like to travel. And what I do right now, that's what I'm able to do. I can travel when I want. I ain't got to punch in nowhere. And so love it.
Ethic, leadership influence your approach to business and ministry.
One more time.
How did your father's work ethic and leadership influence your work approach to business and ministry?
My dad was a timely person to be there on time, right? Again, seeing him consistently waking up 4, 5 in the morning, getting to work and coming home and everything. So just being consistent and being where he needed to be at the times, even though sometimes some things he done that you know, like my dad was out there a little bit in Oakland. He kind of started doing some things with the crack era and the powder, all the stuff. But at the same time, with all of that, he still was working and functioning, right? And tapping in and being places where he needed to be at those times. And so that poured into me. I'm very timely. If I say I'm gonna be there at 9, I'm gonna be there at 9 or before. If I say something, I gotta do it, because again, teaching you those principles: say what you mean and mean what you say. You know, don't take things personal. Always do your best.
King Jr. is a global icon. What aspects of his philosophy resonate most deeply with your own calling?
Just I believe the nonviolence part, as far as what he was able to do with the nonviolence and the civil rights action and everything. You know, leading the people and leading charge and everything. And being a man of God, being a minister, and I mean, we see some of the backings and all. I mean, how they was treated, but he was able to still keep his dignity and still do what he was striving out to do, the nonviolence approach. And so that was inspiring as a young man to hear the stories and everything coming up in elementary, seeing those pictures on the wall, like, I need to be on that wall one day.
I'm sure that they're going to get that shrine for you real soon. How has Dr. King's message of service, justice, and love shaped your work in the community?
That a discrimination type, right? I always, again, underdog type person. I used to feel like if we supposed to be treated equal, they don't treat us equal, right? Like it's a lot of jobs that it's a lot of time when someone may have had a record or felony or misdemeanor, all this kind of stuff, and they can't get a job because of their record. So what you expect, then they back out there doing what they doing. But a lot of them really have wanting to change, but they got so caught up. Not saying all of them, but a lot of them really have want to do better, because we know by talking with them, and just can't get a job. So it was a focus of mine that when we have a barbershop, we go let those come in and work for us. You know, those that have felonies and things like that can't get a job nowhere else. We go teach them how to cut hair. And so we have an apprenticeship program that barbers can come into the shop and learn how to cut hair. And out of these shops, it was 8 barbershops. We probably had about 200 apprentices that became barbers, and some of them became shop owners straight off of the streets. So that philosophy of equality and non-discrimination and things like that played a role in that as well with the barbering.
So Bo Jackson is a symbol of discipline, versatility, and greatness. What impact did he have on you as a young athlete?
Well, inspired me on my running. You know, they used to call me horseman back in the day. They called me a machine because it took more than one person to tackle me type thing. But I watched how Bo Jackson ran hard. So I was a hard runner, you know, north, south. I wasn't one to kind of shake and everything. I run through a person type thing, right? So just watching that. And then even today with my business, I don't know if you check that out, but you know how they have Bo knows this and Bo knows that, you know, with the football, with baseball and all that kind of stuff. Well, now I have Joe knows. So you have, if you look at the page, Joe knows credit, Joe knows finances, Joe knows God, Joe knows wellness, right? Joe knows father figure, fatherhood, Joe knows brotherhood, Joe knows the barber game. So I play on that, which came from Bo knows.
So, what lessons from Bo Jackson's career do you still carry with you today?
What lessons?
From Bo Jackson's career do you carry with you today?
When it's over, it ain't over. Just pivot. You know, don't panic, but pivot, right? Look at, I mean, after all that happened with him where he couldn't play no more, he still kept on going on. I believe he even continued with baseball right after that, right? He pivoted and kept on moving. He didn't let that stop him, you know? So that's one thing. I mean, life happens. I lost my dad 10 years ago. I lost my sister 3 years ago. But it didn't crumble me. Of course, I preached their funerals. I preached their eulogies, right? And people were like, wow, how you do that? But it's all about keep going. All things work together for the good to those that love the Lord. It's a lesson in the message, right?
You know, just mentioning Bo Jackson, I do remember the very last game he played, that playoff game against Cincinnati, when he suffered that horrible hip injury.
Yeah.
And on that tackle, when they said Bo Jackson football career was over, I thought that was like one of the saddest things in the world, because I don't think there would ever be a two-way player that had the impact he had on both sports. There would never be anybody else to reach that standard.
Yeah.
He definitely set a standard.
Yeah, definitely.
So
even his football number, I wore number 34.
Really?
Yeah.
Individuals, your mother, your father, Dr. King, and Bo Jackson collectively shape your mission.
Yeah, the front part was out again.
Do these four individuals, your mother, your father, Dr. King, and Bo Jackson, collectively shape your mission?
Hey, collectively shape my mission?
Yes.
I would say, I mean, for just looking at all of it, looks like in order to get to where they were, it took a lot of persistency. It took a lot of being consistent with what they were doing. And so collectively with my mission is to continue to teach the younger people behind me, you know, what was taught to myself through them, the discipline, staying focused even when things happen, right? To still be disciplined and still be focused despite how hard it may have get. Don't look at how the mistreatment and all that kind of stuff has happened. That's already done. You know, keep on going, keep pressing forward, and eventually you reach the mark. I tell people it's like our whole life is like putting a whole meal together. It makes you and shapes you into who you are. So like making a meal, you taking seasoning from a cabinet, you taking some things out your refrigerator. You may go get a lemon off the lemon tree, but it all comes together to make one meal, right? And so whatever challenges you might go through in life, right, it's all there for the good to make that meal of who you are becoming. So just keep on striving and keep on coming is a message that I seen through them and a message that I live out myself.
So, final question for you. When you reflect on their influence, what do you hope to pass on to the next generation?
That fight, you know, even again, looking at my father had stage 4 cancer, but he survived 4 or 5 years later. he was still there fighting, right? Ended up having brain surgery, still end up fighting. As I just mentioned with the Bo Jackson, I mean, after that injury, he kept on fighting and kept going and still was able to make an impact. My mother, watching her, she lost her husband, right? And she lost her daughter. And she's still going, like she ain't lose no sleep. Like, you know, she still smiles, still help people. Some people use that as a reason or an excuse to not do something, but she's still the same person, still keep going on. Some people like, oh, I ain't got time for that. I lost my husband, I lost my daughter, but she didn't have no bitterness in knowing that in life, that's what happens, you know? But a lot of times people make excuses, and I tell people this, that excuses will continue to excuse you from reaching your goals. You know, you keep on making excuses, so you got to just keep pressing. And of course, again, with the Martin Luther King for taking that weight on his back and carrying the weight of everybody, you know, even despite what it all meant, right? Even despite the ridicule and everything that he was going to have to endure and take, he still took it. And so that's what I do as well. It's a lot of weight, but it's a heavy as the head that wear the crown. You know, and I just keep on pressing, keep going with that understanding.
So, in closing, do you have any words of wisdom and encouragement for our audience, telling them how they can connect with you via your social media, your websites, they can find your books, all of that good stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. I have my website is joeknowsllc.com. Again, joeknowsllc.com. You can see all the accolades there, but then my Instagram is joecan_entrepreneur. joecan_entrepreneur. And words of wisdom, I would just say, again, whatever you have your mindset on, of course, it may not happen overnight, but just keep on striving towards it. And eventually it will happen. You just got to keep on pressing towards the mark and keep on going. As my book says, don't give up on your dreams. You know, inspire yourself by gaining wisdom. Keep on going. Don't buy into other people's ideas. You know the vision. A lot of people don't have your vision. The vision that God gave you is for you, but it's up to you to help everybody else to see the vision later on. So it may not make sense right now, but you keep on striving. You know what you know, and just go for it. And eventually everybody else goes see it later. Like when people told me, did you know this was going to happen? Congratulations on all those shops and this and that. Well, that was part of the business plan. I was excited when God gave me the vision. So I wasn't too excited when it happened because I already was excited knowing it was going to happen.
Say this before closing, that I want to thank you for being here and sharing your story that really helps and impacts our community in more ways than you can ever imagine. You know, when thinking about financial literacy, when thinking about you know, just community in general, you know, for being connected and being unified, you know, for the scholarships that you guys provide. You know, these are things that should help to inspire people in many ways. But, you know, in being a resource of the resource, I want to make sure that people have the opportunity to not just learn from the things that you do and how you did them, but how you keep pushing, how you keep growing, how you keep expanding. But the most important thing is you don't quit.
That's right.
That's the main thing. And I appreciate you so much for that. And hopefully, you know, we'll be able to have you back on the show again. But this was really impactful, and I really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, for sure. Loved it.
For those of you that are watching on all of our streaming channels, especially the YouTube channels, if you have not yet supported us by subscribing to the channel and enabling all notifications, I would appreciate it if you would do as such, because it really does matter as we can get more and more people to see this good work as we display this Black excellence all over the country. So, in closing tonight we witnessed a story of faith, discipline, and divine purpose. Dr. Joseph Cannon reminds us that greatness is not found in one lane. It's found in obedience, in service, and in the courage to answer every calling God places on your life. From the barbershop to the pulpit, from the bay to the valley, from entrepreneurship to ministry, Dr. Cannon has built a legacy rooted in integrity and love for his community. As we honor Black History Month, his journey stands as a reminder that our ancestors' sacrifices are not just memories, they're blueprints. And when we talk in purpose, when we lead with compassion, when we build with intention, we become part of that history. May we all leave tonight inspired to serve, to uplift, and to talk boldly in the purpose God has placed within us. Thank you all. Have a great night, and we will see you guys tomorrow for another outstanding show of America in Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you again, Mr. Cannon.